turn to ancient things. I turn to ancient things, the rhythm of the seasons, love, and know that this too shall pass. Who knows where the time goes by Sandy Denny.
Good morning, and welcome to our Sunday worship service. I'm Molly Smith, and I'll be your celebrant this morning. I've been at UU now for about 10 years, I think. This summer, Reverend Elizabeth is on sabbatical, so services have been coordinated by the shared worship team. I'd like to extend a special welcome to all those who are joining us for the first time. We're very glad you are here. If you come in person, you should have received a welcome packet with an information card in it. If you fill that out and drop it in the offering basket, we'll be in touch to support you finding your way into our community. If you're joining us online, there's a link on our website to an electronic version of that same card. Our welcoming committee members have yellow name tags and can answer any questions or point you toward additional information. Whether you are new or not, please consider staying for coffee and conversation after the service, either downstairs in our fellowship hall or in our Zoom room. And now let's say our words of welcome together. Whether this is your first or your 1000th Sunday with us, and whether you strolled, rolled, Zoomed, ran, or danced in, we're glad you chose to join us. We are one people of many beliefs, identities, origins, sexualities, and genders. All are welcome here. And now we'll take a moment to say hello across the technical divide. First, we're going to show the people joining us on Zoom. If you're at home, please turn on your camera. Now, people at home, wave. And now, people who are attending the service in our building, it's your turn to wave. We do have a couple of announcements. Interested in scouting? The UUCP Navigators USA chapter meets every first and third Sunday from 3 p.m. until 5 p.m. We focus on learning outdoor life and life skills, volunteering in our community, and outdoor play. Navigators is open to ages 5 through 18. However, our current group of kids are between 6 and 10 years old. Membership and activity fees are pay what you can, and we require no uniforms or special equipment. If you're interested, please attend an info session after service today in the third floor library. We hope to see you there.
We'll be hosting Family Promise on September 7th through the 14th, and we need help with setup, of course, with making dinners, dinner hosting, overnight guests, breakdown, laundry. If you don't have time for those kinds of things, you can even get a gift card from Winco for the families that will be hosting that week. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to myself or Nancy Nelson. And that information is also in the weekly newsletter that goes out in the email and is on the website. And then we also have a video for the Capital campaign.
Our announcements? Okay.
Martha, you go ahead and go, because I don't have that video loaded.
Many of you who come to church are new here, and I don't know how much you know about the Capital campaign, that the process of discernment that we went through about 6 years ago. Our building is quite old, and there were stairs that a person had to navigate to come in. It wasn't easy to get around in this old building. So we spent a year having church and listening to everyone that would come to a meeting, voice what they want, what their vision for the future of this church was. And what the galvanizing thing that we...
Since 2019, we have been working...
I can wait and go after the video. The thing that we came to was that we wanted all people to be able to get into our church, which meant having an accessible way and an elevator and wide enough hallways to navigate. That was the thing that inspired many of us 5 or 6 years ago to give money, 2,300,000, and I wrote it down. I have watched the video several times. That video to only be 2 minutes long. So we have raised so far $2,237,400 since 2019. Now, some of that money we have received, or we have received pledges that people are continuing to give to this project. So the video, and what we're doing now is we're still asking for donations. And according to Dave's video and the paperwork that we still have $210,000 to have accumulated enough money to pay for the mortgage for this building. And as you have noticed, as you approach church, that we're getting ready to put up new siding and paint it. And that's $135,000. And since we started raising money for this final thrust of the capital campaign, we have raised $177,000, but we still need $173,000. So I would like, because you are here and because you come every week, I know that the church is important to you just as it is to me. The church represents our values and our values to our community. You probably know that we let a lot of organizations meet here without paying any rent. We are a loving home to many, many people. So so a pledge, let's talk about the actual giving of money. If you put money in the basket on Sunday, and it's just cash, that money goes to the month of Sundays. We give our money, you've heard what we say, we give our money to worthy organizations whose values represent our own. But if you want to give money to the capital campaign, and I would like everyone to be able to say, I gave money to the capital campaign, I gave money to make this church last another 100 years. You need to, if you write a check, you need to say on the byline for the capital campaign, or you could pick up a pledge sheet, which is at the welcome tables, and wrap it around your $20 bill or whatever it is. Now, a pledge, it can also be the promise of what you will give. Let's say you can afford to give $20 a month for a year. So your pledge is your promise to do that. And you write that on the pledge card, put your name on it, put it in the offering basket. So now we can watch Dave's video. It goes by pretty fast. And Joe Palin has put it on the website. You can watch it as many times as you want to.
Since 2019, we have been working to improve our facilities to better serve our congregation and welcome all. This video invites you to help finish that process by raising the final funds that we need.
We opened the new building. The RE program seems to be nothing but vibrant and growing. Each Sunday we welcome new families. The kids are thrilled to come to religious education classes. In fact, sometimes they won't even come into the sanctuary because they love these new rooms so much.
We included Family Promise in the development of our space. I know Family Promise is so grateful to be in the space every time we have folks come to stay here with us who are transitioning, who are looking for a home to be more permanent. They appreciate having the showers here. They appreciate the space they can exist in. They appreciate the offerings to the kids for drawing and the games that are out and available.
We've made a lot of progress on our historic building and the addition to it, and everything's looking great, but we need a little more help because we have siding that needs to be put on the building that's really old.
I invite you to help us move past the building project that we did. We have opened up our church to ourselves, to our community, in so many ways. We are a resource for the entire area, and we are at a point where we're ready to pay off the loan, and it is time for all of us to come together again and complete this project for ourselves at this time and future generations. So I invite you to make a pledge.
Thanks go to all members and friends of the church who donated so much to upgrade our buildings to be welcoming to all. We just need to raise this final $173,000. Pledge cards are at the rear of the sanctuary, or you could pledge online with this QR code. Thanks again.
Here end the announcements. The land on which our church is built is part of the ancestral homeland of the Nimipu, the people, and mistakenly called Nez Perce, or pierced noses by French-speaking trappers and traders. We acknowledge that the land is held in sacred kinship since time immemorial. The land and its people suffered immeasurable trauma brought by Euro-American society, and we're working with its resilient peoples to show respect and contribute to the healing and nurturing of the Hitswayit's precious land and all of its people.
Hoping that folks joining us via Zoom have a chalice or a candle to light and something to light it with. Let's light our chalices together.
In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share.
And then chalice, if you will. Well, before we do the song affirmation, hang on a second. We'd also like to set intention as we do before we sit down before a tarot reading. Tarot cards are filled with symbolism. Each of the 4 suits in the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, and Chelsea, if you'll help out here, represents one of the 4 elements. Cups represents water and deals with emotion, feeling, intuition, relationships. Pentacles or coins represent earth and deals with the material world or possessions or worldly goods. Swords represent air and deals with intellect, reason, logic. And wands represent fire and deal with movement, passion, creativity, and action. Before each reading, I spread a cloth over the space that I'll lay the cards. This can be a dedicated cloth or a shawl, a hat, anything will do. Laying the cloth creates a space for the practice of tarot. Then each element is represented. In my case, I typically use this beautiful abalone shell as a stand-in for cups. The silver piece is a stand-in for tool knife or sometimes a safety pin. Stand-in for candle is a stand-in for swords, and then finally a candle is lit to represent wands. And now back to your regular programming.
Good morning. I often feel like the exhausted captain of a ship full of precious cargo that requires constant planning and attention between work, children, family, friends, hobbies, health issues, cooking meals, cleaning spaces, and planning activities. My decision fatigue is overwhelming. I recently took a family vacation to Europe that was so fun, but also involved researching and deciding every train, plane, and automobile that we would use, in addition to every bathroom that may or may not cost €1. It was so fun and also exhausting. When my friend offered to book a train for our family, I was so relieved. She figured out what time we would need to leave, make sure we had a ticket and a seat, and became the captain of the ship. I'm using decks for the guide my this most nights before I go to sleep. I specifically am in love with Kim Cran's Wild Unknown Spirit Animal deck that my mom gifted to me. Each card has a beautifully sketched and painted animal organized by their dwellings: earth, fire, water, air, and spirit. Along with a paragraph of what the animal's symbolism is, the card has guidance on when you're in balance, out of balance, or what you need to do to stay in balance. It's an easy way to let someone else or something else steer the ship safely, similar to asking your server to pick something they love. When I use the oracle cards alone, I start by shuffling them, taking a few deep breaths, asking the question, what will you have me know today? Some of the time the card is so on point, it feels like magic, and I feel connected to a higher power. I love having a tool that provides a suggestion of something I can meditate or take action on. Sometimes I draw a card and I don't connect with it at all, and I shrug it off and move on or draw another one. I also love using the cards as inspiration for making art and music. I recently wrote a song about feeling like a hummingbird, never really being able to sit still, but always knowing how to find my nectar. And the inspiration came from watching the birds of the mountains of Colorado, the Seven Devils, and drawing the card. Creativity is often more accessible when you have some parameters and restrictions, and life is more fun when every once in a while you get to be the passenger of a ship for a moment. When I use the tarot or a sense of place and purpose, Michelle and I began, and I love getting to catch up with her, enjoy beautiful food and drink, and having a recipe for the purpose of our gathering. It makes me feel safe, heard, supported, and it's just so fun to enjoy the art on the cards and the meaning behind them. Reading in community is such a powerful gift, and I would love to share the wisdom of the Hummingbird Oracle card with you, and then I'll sing a little song that I wrote about it this summer, inspired by it. So here is the Hummingbird card, and here are the notes. Hummingbird, positive, enthusiastic, spiritually resourceful. Inside the tiny hummingbird resides an endless well of energy and positivity. The hummingbird's secret is that it's learned where to gather the nectar, and it returns to these sources daily for nourishment and rejuvenation. This sacred elixir springs from many sources, but usually involves nature, creativity, and exploring spirituality. Follow the way of the hummingbird, and you cannot go wrong. Every droplet of life becomes sweet, and every moment worth savoring. When in balance, smart, curious, loves to learn. When out of balance, pushy, insistent, sharp. To bring into balance, take a class. And I will. I'm taking a Spanish class this semester.
I've got a ruby red throat and a forest green coat. A fire in my belly, sing the sweetest notes. I can't sit still and I won't lose hope. I don't know the words, but I'll hum along. Oh, I can't sit still, never learned how to. If I stop my heartbeat, I drop beneath my old feet. I don't claim to have any answers, but I always know how to find the nectar. 32 years before the cocoon broke, the ties cut free from a worn-out rope. Life got better with powdered wings, floating flying free without all those strings. I can't sit still, never learned how to stop my heartbeat, my drop beneath my old feet. I don't claim to have any answers, but I always know how to find the nectar. Honeycomb and honeysuckle, darling, I am sweet. You'll have to try a little harder to keep up with me. I got a busy, buzzy mind and a pain that stings, an admiration for the flowers of spring. Never really know what tomorrow might bring, but I'll have a song nectar to bring. I can't sit still, never learn how to, but stop my heartbeat and drop beneath my old feet. I don't claim to have any answers, but I always know how to find the nectar. Yeah, I always know how to find the nectar.
The tarot is based on visual symbols that take on meaning the more we think about them and work with them. The symbols of tarot can assist with mindfulness and sometimes give us insights we might not have as we consider different aspects of a particular situation. At times, they can be especially meaningful, as Chesea describes in her experience with the hummingbird. Of course, we're not limited by the symbols on any particular deck. We're immersed in symbols everywhere: traffic lights, business logos, Mr. Yuck, smiley faces, hearts. The examples I've given are cultural, and we understand them because we're familiar with their meanings. Some, however, are universal, such as butterflies, a symbol of transformation, or rainbows, a symbol of hope for everyone. At certain moments, symbols or events seem to contain a message from the universe, an experience called synchronicity. I'm about to share one such moment with you, and if you think it's unbelievable, that's okay. I almost don't believe it myself, and I was there. To set the scene, I was outside on a spring evening preparing some garden beds. It had just finished raining, and there was a rainbow above this little knoll to the east of us. I appreciated the pretty sight for a few moments and turned to my chores. A few minutes later, I noticed that the evening light was unusually intense and kind of a strange color. I looked up, and there was something immense and round coming into view between the arch of the rainbow and the ground. It was so enormous and such a strange reddish color that for a while I couldn't even tell what it was. It was the full moon, but between the earth and the rainbow, it looked many times bigger than it usually looks close to the horizon. By the time I regained my speech and yelled for the family, the show was not nearly as spectacular as it had been moments before. They said, meh, but I got such a different message. One that said, Molly Smith, you were finally in the right place at the right time. Now let's sit in silence to reflect on the moments where a symbol appeared in your life that lent great meaning to your experience.
Please feel free to sing along if you'd like to. Why are there so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish could be heard and answered, called on a morning star? Somebody thought of that, and someone believed him. Look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? What do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Have you been half asleep, or have you seen voices? I've heard them calling my name. Are these the sweet sounds that called the young sailors? I think they're one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
Better than that. Let's just sing the last line from Someday, right? Everybody?
Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
All right, 1 second, Michelle. Okay.
When I was 14-ish, I woke up alone in my childhood home. My parents were off in two different directions. One was with my sister at a wheelchair meet, and one was with my brother at a soccer game or a chess tournament. I slept in, woke up to the empty house, and made my way to the kitchen to make myself some breakfast. On the table was a gift from my mother, a deck of tarot cards, and a book titled The Pictorial Key to the Tarot. My mom was practiced in occult arts. She created and interpreted astrological charts, and she read tarot cards. Before her, my great-grandmother, called Gigi, dabbled in this witchery. She was born in Trinidad and raised in Grenada, with her ancestors immigrating from Ireland and Wales. In my memory, my Gigi told us kids about learning to read tea leaves and reading playing cards from the people she lived among on the islands before she immigrated to New Jersey as a young adult. My mom says Gigi learned these tricks from reading magazines. Legend has it that my Gigi was sought after for her divination skills. Gigi says that she stopped reading tarot cards after she correctly predicted someone's death. The power to know the future scared her, and she promptly gave it up. Tarot cards date back to the 14th century Italy. The cards were a parlor game called tarocchi, played to pass time to amuse aristocrats who could afford cards and leisure time. I don't really have a great source to report how these cards became divination tools. One book mentions that as the cards were tossed aside and more present in the culture and society, scrappy poor people began to adopt the cards to tell fortunes as a way to make money to survive. In the late 19th and early 20th century, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was a secret spiritual society who practiced ceremonial magic and divination. Members of this group came together to create divination cards from the Tarot cards. This deck was published by Ryder and Company Publishing. The interpretation was written by Arthur Waite, and the illustrations were created by Pamela Smith. This deck is commonly known as the Rider-Waite deck. I add Smith when I talk about this deck to recognize the woman who created the images most frequently conjured when we talk about tarot cards. The Rider-Waite-Smith deck took the basic Tarot deck with its major and minor arcana and provided an illustration for each card. Prior to this, Tarot cards had major arcana and pip cards. The pip cards are like the cards in a deck of playing cards, just a number and a suit. Smith created an image for each of these instead, and her approach to the cards then later influenced later artists. I focus a bit on the Rider-Waite-Smith deck because it's probably the most familiar to the general public, but also the most familiar to me. When I received the cards, I set about learning the meanings of each card according to Arthur Waite. I learned about different spreads and how each position meant something different, including the commonly used Celtic cross spread. Throughout my life, I put the cards down, and then a few years later, it seemed I was called to practice again, and I'd set about relearning the meanings. The Rider-Waite-Smith deck features major and minor arcana. There are 22 major arcana. The first card is labeled with the number 0 and is titled The Fool. The next 21 cards are often described as a journey the Fool embarks on. In interpreting the cards coming across the major arcana in a reading, you can consider where in the journey the Fool is as part of the interpretation. There are other subtleties associated with the categorizing of the major arcana, but we won't need to get into that much detail today. The minor arcana are made up of 4 suits. They're like the playing card suits you might be familiar with. Generally, the suits are cups, wands, pentacles or coins, and swords. Many modern decks might name the suit something different, but they typically have equivalencies to these 4 suits. Cups are associated with the element of water, which in turn represents emotion, love, relationship, intuition. Wands are associated with fire and represent action, activity, movement, passion, instinct. Pentacles or coins are associated with earth and represent financial matters sometimes, or material possessions, but also security and safety. Swords are associated with air and represent intellect, reason, logic, judgment, and structure. The aces of each suit represent the energy of the suit, a new beginning associated with the suit, or just the raw potential of that suit. There are 4 court cards in each suit. The Rider-Waite-Smith deck names them King, Queen, Knight, and Page. Newer decks play with these binary hierarchical categories, better reflecting the intended meaning while avoiding the confines of the patriarchal structure. They might choose to call the court cards Seed, Root, Flower, and Harvest. These roles have their own trajectory, which is influenced by the suit that they're in. The king is generally considered to be the masculine leader energy. The queen is maternal, feminine, caretaking. The knight has an adolescent, sophomoric, bull in a china shop energy. And the page is childlike, full of wonder, innocence, and sometimes naivety. The rest of the cards, 2 through 10, tell a story within the suit. If you line up the 2 through 10 of each separate suit, you can see the story in each progression, much like how the major arcana plays out the Fool's journey. Looking at these cards in context can lend further support to their interpretation, since you can consider what happened already in the story and what will position the card. About 5 years ago, after a long hiatus, I picked up my deck again. I looked outside of my only instruction book and found a few contemporary books on reading tarot. Tarot cards are very in vogue right now, and everywhere I looked, a new interpretation of the old Rider-Waite-Smith tarot was available at book and occult stores. I began to seek out more sets. I sought decks which were created with intention to include images of diverse humans and to represent more complex or nuanced interpretations of the cards. It's in this time period that I transitioned from the rote memorization of what Arthur Waite said the cards meant. Instead, I began to intentionally develop my own intuition about the images. I used my foundational knowledge of the cards' meanings, but I always pushed myself to consider what the images convey to me, how the archetypes correlate with my own experience. After this consideration, I like to see what the deck's creator has to say about the card meaning and see if that resonates with me. Chelsea and I started a beautiful friendship around this time, and we learned of each other's interest in cartomancy, which gave us the perfect activity for when we gather, tea and tarot and toast. We gather in our homes, share treats of many kinds, not just toast, and we catch up on each other's lives. Then we set our intention by spreading a cloth and placing our representative items, lighting the candle before we begin. We decide on what our spread will be, often a 3-card spread. Past, present, and future is a common one, but sometimes it's community, family, self. Or maybe we select cards from 3 different decks. Let's say I have Chelsea read my cards first. I may have a question in mind that I'm seeking insight on, or perhaps I just let the cards tell me what I need to pay attention to in my life. Chelsea shuffles the deck. If a card pops out in the shuffle, we take this to mean that it's meant for us to see, and it's placed in the spread. After sufficient shuffling, I'll cut the cards. Chelsea then pulls the cards and places them in the predetermined spread. Now we examine each card. We look at the color, the orientation, the depictions, and turn inwards to find how the card resonates with us. There's a lot of and staring off into space while we patiently wait for each other. I speak for discussing my found of the Rider-Waite's based on the depictions. Chelsea, her own wise reflection, we will pull out the specific deck that we are using, and we read the deck creator's interpretation. We perform this ritual with each card. We think about how the card fits into the pattern of the spread we place them in. We consider how a card that doesn't seem to fit might be another thing that we're not paying attention to. We trust our intuition, and we learn from each other. I think of our method as seeking synchronicity. We do not divine the future. We're looking for messages, and we use the cards as a guide to grow and stretch and be curious and creative and to connect. My mom has strict rules about tarot. There's only a few. One is that your tarot deck must be received as a gift from someone who practices tarot already. She gifted me my first deck, as I mentioned earlier. She also believes other people must not handle your deck, as you need to have your energy only in the deck. She might allow a person that she's reading for to cut the deck, but no more. As a rebel, I do not follow these rules. I have not found the cards to betray me in my rebellion. There was a stressful phase in the last 5 years where I set about purchasing new decks that resonated with me whenever I found them. I called this collection my retail therapy. I decided I needed to limit myself by making a rule that I could only have the number of decks that fit into this box. I follow that rule. Confess, I often consider getting a bigger box. I'm drawn to the modernized tarot decks, which follow the template of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. This is partly because of the connection to my mom and her gift to me, and partly because I'm familiar with the meanings of these cards. I have a couple of oracle decks, which are fun to play with, but I don't often pull them out or consult them. But my preference does not matter. Chelsea prefers oracle decks. Some people use playing cards. There's a Thoth deck, which is similar to the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, though has its own peculiar patterns. Cartomancy, I think, needs no rules. It needs ritual. It needs curiosity. It needs reflection. It needs creativity. It needs mindfulness. It's a tool to develop intuition and to grow a deeper understanding of ourselves.
Right here I am holding the 3 of Cups,
and it has 3 little birds on it. So we are going to sing Bob Marley's 3 Little Birds. I hope that you'll stand with me, embody your spirit, and sing along.
Right, and this is the closing hymn, so you have to sing along.
Yes.
Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Rise up this morning, smile with the rising sun. 3 little birds sit by my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true. Singing, this is my message to you. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. One more time. Rise up this morning, smile with the rising sun. 3 little birds sit by my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true. Singing, this is my message to you. Last time. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Every little thing is gonna be alright.
These days, I don't refer to the tarot cards as much as I did when I was younger, but many of the cards stick in my mind. I'm not a visual person, and the only way I can really remember what I see is to talk to myself about it, maybe even write it down. So I truly enjoy images that tell a story, like the tarot cards do. One card I think of often is the 5 of Cups. This shows a despondent-looking fellow looking forlornly at 3 spilled cups at his feet, ignoring the 2 cups behind him, which remain full. I think of this card when I find myself unwilling to let go, when I need to turn my attention to what I still have. Another card that holds great significance to me is the Hanged Man. This curious card shows a man hanging by 1 foot. He looks uncomfortable, yes, but not frightened. He seems to be concentrating, and the yellow light around his head makes me think he's having a revelation. This card typically stands for situations when I need to look at things from a different angle, even if it's uncomfortable, even difficult. So here's a story that brought to mind this card. When we lived in Koosky, we lived 7 miles above town, and I worked in a town 7 miles further away than that, so I had a bit of a commute. There was no trash pickup in Idaho County, so the practice was to bag it up and drop it in the nearest dumpster. This was a trash morning. It was raining, I needed to make this extra stop, and I was already crunched for time. So I went off down the hill, pulled into the dumpster area, grabbed my trash bags, and tossed them in. By now, it was getting a little windy along with the rain, and when I turned to get back in the car, the door had blown shut and the stupid vehicle had locked itself. What to do? The Forest Service ranger station and the fish hatchery were both not too far away, so I decided I could find a phone at one of them, and off I went, getting a little damp and feeling a little sorry for myself. Before I had gone more than a few yards, the school bus came along and the driver asked if I needed a ride. So I hopped on and asked to be dropped at the ranger station. The receptionist let me use the phone to call my boss. I expected to be read the riot act, but when I told her of my predicament, she said, "Oh, that happened to my brother just the other day. We'll see you when you get here." One of my husband's friends was working that day, and he cheerfully agreed to drive me back up the hill to my house so I could get my spare keys. When I finally returned to the dumpster, there was my car still running, and it had been joined by a pickup, which was also running, though I saw no one there. I thanked my friend. I thanked my friend for the ride and got out, asking myself if this place was now the Bermuda Triangle of locked vehicles. Then the local dumpster driver popped up. He has no hair and no teeth, and he looks like a very agile baby. He comes at me, "Good morning, Myth. Isn't it a beautiful day?" And it struck me, it really was a beautiful day. At every point on my little adventure, I had been met with kindness and assistance, and I had been reminded by the most unexpected person imaginable that every day had something beautiful to offer if we open ourselves to it. And every person we meet can give us something profound. My day had truly been turned upside down. So please join me for our musical benediction, There Is a Love. Please join me in the words to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this chalice that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light our paths as we leave this place. May it guide our way until we are together again. It's time for us to return to our sacred lives, perhaps with a stop for coffee downstairs, and hopefully we will remain open to those moments when we experience life as a conversation between ourselves and our universe. So let's go with open senses and open hearts and come back next Sunday.